Alright, good afternoon. One set of exercises that can be done at home using nothing more than a rug or a mat are floor exercises for the legs. And these exercises I'm about to show you today are designed not to work the large muscles of the legs, such as the quads, the glutes, and the hamstrings, but these exercises are designed to stretch the smaller muscles, and so they set you up for success when you're doing the other exercises. So the first exercise we're going to cover is the side lying leg raise. And this is done by lying on the side. The bottom leg is, you have the knee bent, and that allows a little bit more stability so that your body stays in side lying more easily. You don't roll forward and back because that bottom leg can support you. You then take the top leg, keep the knee, hip, shoulder lined up, and simply raise the leg toward the ceiling in a smooth manner as far as you can, keeping the bottom hip on the floor or on the ground. And you do repetitions of this until you start to lose that form. The exercise I'm doing right now, the hip is in the so-called neutral position with the toes pointing straight ahead. If you have pain when you're doing this, or just for variation, you can also do this by initiating and raising the toes before you raise the heel, and then keeping your foot in that position as you do the movement. This amounts to having the hip in external rotation as you do the movement. You can also do this with the hip biased into internal rotation, where you raise the heel first with the toes still on the ground, and then you raise up, keeping it in that same orientation. So now, when I'm doing the movement, my hip is in internal rotation as I do it, and that targets the different muscle groups on the side of the hip. This is an active exercise for the outer hip, and it's an active stretch for the inner thigh. The next exercise I'm going to cover is the reverse side lying leg raise, and that's done by taking the top leg and either positioning it in front of the other leg or behind. I'm most comfortable doing it with the top leg behind. You then keep the bottom leg straight and raise that as far as you can comfortably. This actively works the inner thigh muscles, and it actively stretches the outer thigh. And once again, as with the straight leg raise, with the side lying leg raise, the reverse side lying raise, you would want to do as many repetitions as you can while still maintaining good form. As so. The final exercise we're going to cover in this video is the prone hip extension. Most people, especially runners, the gluteal muscles tend to shut down and the hamstrings become the primary hip extensor. And this results in biomechanical problems at the hip. So this exercise helps correct for that. You bend the knee 90 degrees, and by doing so, that takes the hamstrings out of the picture. Now the gluteals are the muscles that have to do hip extension. So you want to keep your hip in contact with the ground or with the floor, and then actively raise your knee. I don't have much motion to show you here, and I'm pretty typical. Most people are very stiff in this direction, and in fact the human hip has the least amount of motion in this direction. And so don't feel bad if you can't raise your knee very far. But remember not to raise that hip. Keep the hip in contact with the floor and keep raising that knee. This becomes an active stretch for the front part of for the anterior hip muscles, and it's an active exercise for the gluteals. It gets them ready for the more vigorous exercises that you would want to do to develop the gluteal muscles.